half in the bag. Send more Nuki tapes.
Well, Jay, here we are. It's a new month, September 2018.
This is true.
A lot of movies came out this year that we saw that we did not cover on our program called Half in the Bag.
Yeah, we usually save these catch-ups for a little later in the year, sometimes even going into early the next year. But I don't want to see that Happy Time Murders, so let's just do this. So what did you see this year?
I saw a whole bunch of films, Jay.
As did I. I noticed, I have a nice list made up. I've got it on a clipboard. I have it all organized, and yours is on a crumpled up wet piece of paper.
Well, let's start at the beginning. I saw Winchester.
I feel their presence. In the air, in the walls.
How was Helen Mirren in that? I bet she was given a very meaty role.
Helen Mirren is a classy lady. She did a great job in the film. This film, I was surprised by how unterrible it was.
Wow.
It wasn't good, but this is the new review standard, unterrible. I don't know if that's a word, but it is now. So real quick, Winchester. Lady Winchester, the old lady.
It's an interesting story. I would like to see a movie about that story.
Well, there is no story. There is. Ghost Adventures went to the Winchester Mystery House, which is in California. The old lady, Lady Winchester, she was notorious for being crazy. She thought if you took a photograph of her, it would steal her soul. So there's one secret photograph of her. And she's on like a horse and carriage, and there's someone's in the bushes, and you can see her. That's the only photograph that exists of her.
Okay.
So she felt extreme guilt because her family made a fortune selling the Winchester firearms. So many people got shot and killed by Winchester rifles. She felt like their ghosts were haunting her. So she started building a mansion, and then kept adding rooms to it, and it's like 100,000 square feet, and there's just stairwells that go nowhere, and it was meant to confuse spirits that were in the house. And then I saw the trailer, and I thought the movie was just gonna be explosions, and they have a part where she flies against the wall with a demon, and all of it's fictionalized. And I watched it, and it was really boring. The whole movie was really boring, and I was like, I'm surprised at how boring this is.
They didn't have jump scares every 5 minutes?
No. Jason Clarke was like an alcoholic writer, I think. And he was like a junkie writer, and he's like, they want him to come and write something.
It's like The Shining, where he's like an alcoholic writer.
Yeah, kind of. And he shows up, and there's this little boy there, and the little boy gets possessed occasionally and walks on the roof of the Winchester house and get back in your room. And
so this story isn't about Lady Winchester going crazy and the house construction. It's all after.
It's not like a biopic.
That would be potentially more interesting.
But and then I was like, this is really dull, and this is not like going over the top Conjuring style. So I was surprised by its restraint in crap, and I was surprised at its unterribleness.
Okay.
But it still was not good. So never watch this movie.
I think you just recently saw Deadpool 2?
I did not watch Deadpool 2.
You did not watch Deadpool 2, okay.
I chose to watch a different film.
Okay.
That was much better.
We're gonna form a super duper fucking group. We need them tough, morally flexible, and young enough to carry their own franchise for 10 to 12 years.
Well, here's the deal with Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
It's completely fine. It is exactly what you would expect from a sequel to Deadpool, which is kind of the problem. I know a lot of people like it. It's the same humor. It's done in the exact same style as the first one. And for me, that's what made it so uninteresting. Because the thing that made the first Deadpool, like I didn't really actually care for the sense of humor in the movie, but I appreciated the kind of spirit of it, and it felt fresh amongst all the comic book movies, because it was kind of, taking the piss out of them and doing its own thing.
It's a little meta too.
Yeah, and it was meta. It was doing the fourth wall breaking stuff. And so the sequel is just kind of more of the same. And that's fine, but it felt like the safest sequel possible to a movie that didn't feel terribly safe. Like the first Deadpool, they were taking a chance on it. It was R-rated. It was, it had this kind of anarchic spirit to it. And this one is just more of the same. I know I bring up Gremlins 2 a lot, but doing something more like that, where you're actually making the movie about the fact that it's a sequel to Deadpool. Like, I think you could do more with that.
Joe Dante, genius.
Gremlins 2, it's the best sequel ever made. Oh my God! Ah, my fucking eyeball! Oh, why do we have Gremlins 2 hands?
Ha! That's right. And speaking of Gremlins 2, the new batch, we own 2 Gremlin arms from actual film.
Yeah, we're done talking about Deadpool 2 because it's completely uninteresting, and we're just going to point out that we now own props used in Gremlins 2. It smells like Zach Galligan.
How do you know what Zach Galligan smells like?
Don't ask.
Deadpool 2, yeah. No. Did it at least make you laugh?
No, Deadpool 2, did it make me laugh a couple times? It actually had one moment that made me laugh harder than anything in the first movie. So there's that.
Okay.
It's the sequence, it's in the trailer, you see when everybody's jumping out of the plane. It's the follow-up to what happens after they jump out of the plane. It's like, that's really funny. And then that was it.
No,
So it's a fine sequel. It was just, like I said, it just felt very kind of like safe and rehashed.
It lives up to the hype, plus.
Fuck it, they probably won't even make a 3.
Yeah, why would they?
But speaking of safe and rehashed, let's talk about what I did watch, Mission Impossible Fallout.
Your mission. Should you choose to accept it?
Some people are calling that like the best action movie since Mad Max Fury Road. I haven't seen it.
It was very, very good. And this one was different, and it felt like it took kind of like a step backwards. Because now when you think of like Mission Impossible movies, you think of like computers and like digital eye scanning and like, the satellites and all this like futuristic technology. This one kind of felt a little retro, a little classic spy kind of stuff. Because they had the little top secret file, and they had like dossiers on people with their photos.
Like
and
pieces of paper?
Yes.
Not
literal pieces.
holographic
Yes,
images?
exactly. See, that's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
That's what you think you'd see in 2018. But it was real kind of like, double crossings and the spies meeting in smoky alleys, and we're going to do the exchange. And I mean, and the plot was fairly simple. But yeah, there is a reason why people are saying it's one of the best action movies, and it's weird because in this day and age, it kind of it feels like out of place a little, because after watching something like, you watch like Infinity War, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has a green screen behind them all the time. Yeah. Everything's so manipulated later digitally.
Yeah.
And this, it feels almost like a documentary film, because Tom Cruise apparently does not have a stunt double.
Oh yeah, that's his thing with every movie.
Yeah.
What's he gonna climb or hang on to this time?
And that's a little bit of this felt like that. It feels like, because in the credits, which I don't know if I've seen in the previous films, it says a Tom Cruise production.
Okay.
So he's an official producer. Yeah. And there's a couple of scenes where he acts. There's like an emotional scene at
There's
the
a
end.
couple scenes where he
I'm being serious. It's like, what are you doing? You double crossing me? We got the goods on you. Like, it's acting like that.
Yeah.
It's not like acting. Like, there's an emotional
It's
scene
not
at
him
the end.
crying over the death of his father in Magnolia,
Right.
where he has to clench his hand to get the tears out because he's not a great actor.
Well, there's a little emotional scene at the end, but for the most part, it feels like Tom Cruise is obviously a very wealthy man, and these are his adventures. It's like, watch me mountain climb.
Yeah. They're vanity projects in the way that like the best of the worst movies are, but he actually has a budget to do cool things.
Yeah.
Pretty baby, let's do the shimmy slide.
So it's like he's like a billionaire adventurer who films his adventures, and you watch them, and he gets paid for it. You know what I mean? Like, I really want to hang off a helicopter.
Yeah.
But when you see stuff like that, I mean, I'm assuming they painted out wires here or there, but he's actually hanging underneath a helicopter, and they've got the camera rig under there, and you could tell it's a real camera rig because there's this like wide angle lens on that looks a little uncinematic because it has to be mounted underneath a helicopter, but it's real.
Yeah. I think people are coming back around, even general audiences, because obviously we pay attention to this all just looks like a phony action scene.
Yeah.
But I think now we've shown that you can do anything with computers, and people are starting to get bored by that. And they're coming back around to wanting to see. I mean, that's why every Mission Impossible movie, that's the selling point of all of them is watch Tom Cruise do this thing.
Right.
So I think people are starting to get sick of with the Avengers or something, you have to do that because it's
fantasy.
It's fantasy, it's science fiction-y, but as far as regular action movies, I think people are starting to get more interested in that type of stuff again.
Right. It is sort of watch Tom Cruise climb on this thing or jump off this thing. And there was a fight scene at the end when he's fighting the bad guy, Henry Cavill, and there's some helicopters.
Oh, and his mustache, the infamous mustache.
This is the infamous mustache movie, and there's some helicopters falling off a cliff and hanging down a gorge and kind of stuff like that where it's not real.
Yeah.
With action movies Equalizer, I think, got bad reviews but was popular with the crowds.
Yeah.
People like those John Wick movies. I mean,
those are great.
There's some.
But Mike, let me ask you, how does it stand against The Mummy?
Same writer.
Is it really?
Christopher McQuarrie.
Did he write The Mummy? Yeah. Oh God, how embarrassing.
But that was an Alex Kurtzman production.
Oh.
So Alex Kurtzman probably rewrote the script.
He said, "Can we make it more dumberer?"
Yeah. I don't quite understand what's happening in your script. Can you make it dumber? I don't know why it sounds like Trump.
Alex Kurtzman hands Tom Cruise. He's like, "I rewrote it," and Tom Cruise looks at it and it's crayon.
Alex, this is great. This is great. My Tom Cruise sounds like Trump too. I don't know why. I can't do any impressions. Alex, what you've done here is great. Hang on to the blade of a helicopter. Now, you mean the bottom part, right? I thought it would be cool, Tom, if you hung on to the blade and just spun you around real fast like that cat video on the internet. I do all my own stunts, Alex, right? I know, Tom!
It'll be great!
You let go before it really starts spinning. When a helicopter starts, it starts spinning a little slowly. But you really want me to do this? We'll have a wire on you! That's it.
Another Mission Impossible movie to add to my list of Mission Impossible movies I haven't seen, which is all of them.
Well, people.
I don't know why I haven't seen them. I always hear them.
People were yelling at us to talk about Mission Impossible, so I did, and Deadpool. Yeah. You saw one, I saw the other. That's enough. Shut up.
We're done with this crap.
Shut up.
Well, now let's talk about a movie that nobody's asked us to talk about, although maybe they should have. It's called Thoroughbreds.
Yeah. But Jay, while we talk about Thoroughbreds, I want to mention two other films because I noticed 3 films that I've seen this year all fall into a separate niche category called young people committing crimes.
Oh, I think this is called reality.
Oh. It seems to be a sub genre this year.
Okay, what else you got?
Thoroughbreds, Flower, and American Animals. But let's talk about Thoroughbreds first.
Sure.
We have a business proposition for you.
I really like Thoroughbreds. It's kind of, I think there's a lot of movies this year where it's they're really good, but they're just missing that spark, that thing to really make them great. Because I kept seeing this movie compared to
the spark that'll light the fire.
Oh, is that a Star Wars: The Last Jedi reference?
To take out the resistance.
Remember Star Wars: The Last Jedi?
The spark that'll light the fire.
Oh no! The fact that you even mentioned that movie means there's 15 articles written about us now.
I'm sending you to boarding school.
But anyway, no, Thoroughbreds, I kept seeing in the marketing for it, it being compared to Heathers as being like a dark comedy. And I didn't really get that. Like Heathers is a dark comedy, but it's very overtly a comedy. Mm-hmm. And Thoroughbreds, the two characters, the two main actresses are both really good. And they have some kind of sarcastic comments back and forth to each other, but it was a lot more kind of cold and dark, I thought, than Heather's. But it's really like what keeps it interesting is those two performances.
Oh, yeah.
It's Olivia Clarke from Bates Motel. She was great on that show. And then the witch girl, whatever her name is, she's in Split.
The Split Girl.
The Split Girl. And they were both really fantastic in it. But yeah, I really liked the
Anna Taylor-Joy.
Anna Taylor-Joy.
And let us not forget the late, great Anton Yelchin.
You want to hold it?
No thanks.
And I think it's his final film?
It's his final movie. The movie's dedicated to him. And yeah, I wanted to mention that because like he shows up, you know, it's mostly focused on these two girls, but they go to a party at one point and Anton Yelchin's there. And, you know, the camera's panning around the party. It lands on Anton Yelchin and you're like, just immediately he like jumps off the screen and you're like, this guy's so fucking good. Because the movie itself, like, there's some of it that maybe was supposed to come off as dark comedy, but to me, it's a lot of the stuff with his character where he's so like, he's trying to be like, you know, he's like an older dude that hangs out with all these younger people and tries to sell them drugs. And he's just so pathetic. Mm-hmm. And he's so pathetic. And then these two girls, the plot is that they want to kill one of the girls' stepdads. And so they kind of blackmail Anton Yelchin into doing it. And the scenes where they're blackmailing him, and he's just so, his character is so pathetic. And they're like blackmailing him to do it. Like they beat him over the head with a lamp and he's like in the bathtub. And he's just so pathetic that I couldn't even find it funny. And maybe it's just the knowledge that he's dead now too that affected it. But all those scenes just really made me sad.
Yeah, such a terrible, terrible loss. And I say that non-sarcastically.
Yeah, no, like I said, every scene he's in this movie, even though all the performances are great, he just really steals it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. He's the spark that'll light the fire.
Oh no, that's your Star Trek is what he was in.
Oh right. Yeah, Thoroughbreds. Yeah, a little kind of disturbing ending.
Well, I love that the climax of the movie takes place off camera. It's like, well, we don't want to get too much into spoilers, but you know, one character is asleep and the camera just holds on that person, and you hear the climax of the movie, everything that the movie's been leading up to, off camera. I thought that was really great.
Yeah, I mean, it's a performance movie.
Yeah.
Those three actors, you know, hold your attention. I mean, there's not a whole lot of like crazy shit that's going on, and it's, you know,
it's super simple story-wise.
I think my subgenre is a coming-of-age crime movie.
Okay.
Because with the next two films we're going to talk about, they're young people that are kind of just becoming adults, but for some reason feel this compulsion to commit a heinous crime.
Right.
And it affects their lives for good or bad.
Yeah.
You know, mostly bad.
And in the case of this movie, in Thoroughbreds, one of them is like a sociopath, which is interesting.
But yeah, we won't say any more. Thoroughbreds is on our recommendation list.
Very good, very simple. It's hard to talk about without spoiling too much of it, just because it is so focused. But I liked the kind of mannered camera work. It's very restrained, really well done, and I like the score a lot too. It's very eclectic.
We're keeping this, by the way.
But then let's go quickly into Flower. Did you see Flower?
I don't know what this is. I haven't even heard of it.
So, Erica, you must be psyched to have an older brother type in the house.
Flower stars Zoe Deutsch, Tim Height.
Oh, that's Leah Thompson's daughter.
Well, that explains why she looks just like Leah Thompson.
There you go.
The premise is the main girl, some stepbrother or somebody comes out of rehab and lives with her. It's like this fat kid. He's like weirdo. He was on drugs, and he claims that his former teacher, played by Adam Scott, molested him. Let's get this guy. So they concoct this plan to get revenge on Adam Scott. Spoilers if you want to watch Flower, ignore this, move on. They accidentally kill Adam Scott, but it turns out the kid was lying. Adam Scott never molested him. He made up the whole story. And so Adam Scott was this poor victim who gets killed. And then instead of getting caught and atoning for her crimes, she falls in love with the fat kid and they run away together. And then she does like 6 weeks in prison and then is out. And is never punished for her crime. And then it's a happy ending, and it's just fucking awful, from what I recall. This movie's a stink ball.
Oh, okay.
It's a big pile of horse shit. It's been a while since I've seen it. An oddly happy ending.
Okay.
Where nobody learns a lesson, where it was like crash. Worst ending ever in a motion picture.
Where are you guys going?
To go buy some crack? You wanna throw it down?
It's okay. They're not buying drugs, Bob. Just let them
No, I get the joke.
You said you had another one? That's the team?
Yes, third one.
Yeah.
A film called American Animals, starring...
Oh, is that the Winnie the Pooh movie that just came out?
This library is home to the most valuable book in the United States.
Starring Evan Peters.
Quicksilver?
Right. Yeah. He also did 11 seasons of American Horror Story.
Oh, I only know him from that movie made by that.
Oh. Ironically, his real life nickname is Quicksilver. It's almost like it's a true crime documentary. The style of it is very different. It's a story of these 4 guys in a college in Kentucky that want to steal a priceless book. It's a book of artwork, and it's in their university's library in this vault that's guarded by this librarian, and it's worth like $25 million. The movie starts off and it says, "This is not based on a true story," and you're like, "What?" The trailer told me it was, and then it erases some words and it says, "This is a true story," and so it starts into it, and mixed in with the film is the actual guys, and they're interviewing them in the film. They're talking to camera and they're kind of explaining things, and then they show, it's almost like the movie itself is like recreation.
Yeah.
But then there's even parts where they interact in the movie with the characters.
Okay.
So it's really like stylized, and it really has like a David Fincher quality to it. It kind of reminded me of The Social Network, mainly because of the setting, and like, here's like a real story of what happened at this college, but the way it's shot, and I mean, this movie was probably the best edited movie I've seen in a long time. I think you'll really enjoy it, Jay.
Okay.
I don't want to give any spoilers away about what happens in the film, but it's really interesting the way that they present this story.
I was thinking the only movie I can think of that also kind of does that is, did you ever see American Splendor with Paul Giamatti?
No.
That does that same thing. So I mean, I haven't seen how it's executed in your movie, but where it's based on comic book artist Harvey Pekar. So sometimes he's really in it, but then in the recreations it's Paul Giamatti.
Okay.
And then they interact a little bit. So kind of like that.
Similar to that.
Yeah.
There's this part where, this is one of my favorite moments because I'm a fan of the Ocean's movies, the Pitt Clooney movies.
Yeah.
And
did you see Ocean's 8? Why not?
Oh yeah, where they imagine how their heist goes, and they play the Elvis, a little less conversation, a little more action, and they're just like suave and doing all these things, like how heists are portrayed in movies and how it goes in real life, and let's just say things don't go well, and it's really interesting. It was a really interesting movie. It was kind of compelling, and
things don't go well. What happens? Did Bryan Singer show up?
I said steal art, not. Get your ears checked.
Are you sure you're okay?
Golly, I hope it gets some Academy Award nominations.
Oh, it won't.
Like Best Kiss. Best Fight Scene. You know, a couple of those categories the Oscars have added.
Oh yeah, those are my favorite categories.
Coolest drag off a cigarette. Rihanna in Booty Call 3. Coolest diss on a cell phone. Jason Statham in The Transporter 6. I'll go say this to you, bloke. Fuck off. I'm thankful for getting the award for coolest diss on a mobile phone. I'm gonna take this award and put it right in my basement.
Well, speaking of true stories that are completely fictionalized, and some might say complete bullshit.
I already talked about Winchester.
I saw the Devil and Father Amorth.
At the time I directed the film, The Exorcist, I had never seen the real thing. Father Gabriella Amorth, the Vatican exorcist, invited me to witness an actual exorcism.
Which I think is on Netflix now, but it's William Friedkin, one of the great American directors, French Connection, The Exorcist, of course, my favorite horror movie. And I was curious to see this because...
Booty Call 2.
He did Booty Call 2, not Booty Call 3.
Booty Call 2 is much better than 3.
But this movie falls into the category of barely a movie. It looks like a DVD extra, not even a Blu-ray extra, but like a DVD special feature from like 2003. It's really cheap looking. It's supposedly William Friedkin was allowed to videotape an actual exorcism because clearly he has a connection to exorcisms. He directed The Exorcist. So he goes to Italy and he films this exorcism, and then it's about him. He talks about how, because it's a real thing where it's like the Vatican has to grant exorcisms. It's still a thing. And so he's in a room filming this exorcism, and it looks like Grandpa's Home Movies. The person that's being exorcised, she keeps like shouting things, and they very obviously manipulated her voice, so it sounds like a demon voice.
Oh, no.
But they never comment on it. Like, if you're trying to pass this off as real, then have William Friedkin like narrates it. Have him say like, "We did not alter this audio," but they just don't comment on it at all. And it's like, it's very clearly phony. So that was annoying.
Wait, though, is it billed as a documentary?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like.
Well, you don't do that in documentaries.
Well, William Friedkin does it because he's a confused elderly man.
That's rule number 1.
But I think the idea is that it's supposed to be real, but it's so obviously manipulated audio. So that was annoying. And then the climax of the movie is supposed to be Friedkin meeting her at a church to discuss the situation. But Friedkin has this voiceover narration where he's like, "Now, I didn't bring my camera with me, but let me tell you, this is what happened." And they're like, "We're just supposed to take his word for it?" Like, she freaks out in the church, and I think she even like pushes him over or something. But this is just William Friedkin saying this happened. Now, trust me, this is what happened. It's just terrible. It made that Zach Bagans documentary look like an Errol Morris movie or something. Just awful. It could have been a really interesting kind of companion piece to The Exorcist, but no.
You didn't just say something bad about Zach Bagans, did you?
It's just, well, I kind of gave him a compliment. I said that he made a better film than William Friedkin. Like, that's pretty amazing. So, just a huge pile of junk. It sucks. It's a shame because I love William Friedkin, but just terrible. But it's on Netflix, so you can watch it for free.
I would say I would want to watch this out of morbid curiosity, but I don't even want that. And for the record, Demon House was good. I was spooked out at the end.
There's a funny thing. He kind of does like an intro, like a Zach Bagans-y intro. I think he's in front of the house that they shot The Exorcist at, and he walks into frame and he's like, "I'm William Friedkin." It's like, oh no.
"I'm William Friedkin." And then he falls down the stairs, ironically. Well, let's talk about a film. Jay, you talked about William Friedkin's new film, The Devil Wears Prada. What was it called?
The Devil and Father Amorth.
The Devil in Father Amorth?
And Father Amorth.
The Devil. Well, Jay, you talked about William Friedkin's new film, The Devil Wears Prada.
Yes.
And then you highly referenced another film, The Exorcist.
Yes.
Let's talk about a film and try not to reference another film.
Okay.
And you'll see where I'm going with this. Let's talk about Tully. And I know you saw Tully.
I did.
Because you like the director, the filmmaker.
Yeah, I didn't see, he did a movie before this called like Earth Day or Labor Day or some sort of day. I didn't see that because it looked crap. But I like.
He follows us on Twitter. He's one of our biggest fans.
Is that true?
No.
Oh. No, I like Young Adults, which was the same writer, director, and star. So I saw it because I liked all three of those, their work they did on Young Adults.
And did you like Tully?
I liked it until I didn't. I thought it was a good, like, I mean, it was basically just like, man, that Charlize Theron is really good.
Oh, yeah.
She is such a great actress.
It's so great.
What movie would I compare it to? I really don't know where you're going with this.
It's essentially a complete and utter remake of, spoilers, Fight Club.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
I guess so. I mean, I would say I liked it until I didn't, and that's when I didn't like it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Fight Club.
Because it's like, oh, I wasn't expecting. I mean, I guess you could say it's a positive when a movie goes where you don't expect it, but it's like, it did it in an unsatisfactory way, or it's like, oh.
I figured it out about halfway through, and I was suspicious.
Yeah.
I mean, Fight Club, you have Edward Norton, who is successful. He has all these things. His life is hollow.
Yeah.
He's turned into the person like he's supposed to be, but his alter ego, Brad Pitt, is the fascist anarchist, crazy guy who wants to shake up the system and bomb the credit card companies, and Charlize Theron is she's burnt out as a mother, and who she is on the inside is the Tully character.
Yeah.
It was that scene when Tully's like, "You want me to fuck your husband?" And
in retrospect, yeah.
And I'm like,
I guess when I was watching the movie, I wasn't expecting any sort of twist, so I thought it was just like this character-driven thing.
Sure.
So then that scene was sort of like, what? And then it's not really mentioned again, and I was like, what? And then the twist happened, and I said, oh.
Yeah. I mean, it's bordering on copyright infringement, essentially.
Fight Club isn't the first movie to do that kind of twist, though.
I mean, if you look at it, masculine-driven is Fight Club, and I'm the boring guy who goes on business trips and buys couches from the store and sits in his apartment. I really want to punch other men.
Yeah.
And then the feminine version, I guess probably called sexist. The feminine version is she no longer feels sexy anymore, and there's all this stuff like having kids is rough on your body, and her husband is just playing video games in the bed, and she's like, your 20s you're alive and you feel great, but then your 30s come around the corner like a garbage truck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like for men it's the midlife crisis, and for women it's becoming a mother and kind of changing course.
Yeah.
And to her and her youthfulness, the zest for life is embodied in the Tully character, which is her subconscious. So it's essentially the female version of Fight Club, except there's no demolition of buildings at the end.
No, that's in the deleted scenes.
Deleted scenes.
That twist is the lamest thing.
I thought it was a little sweet. I really liked it.
It kind of, I don't want to say it ruined the movie for me, but I was definitely less interested once it got to that point. But up until then, and even after then, I was like, man, that Charlize Theron is really good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You could say it's a bit contrived, a bit corny, but I liked it. It strengthened her character.
So I think you could do.
Theron.
I mean, I don't want. Not that I'm telling people how to do their jobs, but I think you could have had that same arc with her without. Where if she was an actual person, where it's just like, oh, this younger person, she seems like she's free and having fun, but her life's a mess too. Kind of take some perspective on.
I guess either way, you have the same results.
I guess.
But you have a nice little twist where everyone goes, oh. Again, a lot of these films, like that stupid ass Flower movie, where you're just like, let's just get this over with. That's why I like American Animals. It was different.
Yeah.
And Tully, while derivative of Fight Club, had a fresh take on that concept of a person hitting midlife, regretting things, and kind of feeling that inner change or whatever, and how it's expressed. I don't know. It worked for me. I mean, it wasn't the greatest film I've ever seen. That's The Empire Strikes Back. But, Tully never hung off like this thing above like a giant abyss where a man in a black robot suit said, "No, I am your father." That moment didn't happen in Tully, but still, it was a great film. Moving on!
Continued in part 2.